And we're here to get an update on the Court Assistance Officer introduction with Mr. Jay Sturgill. And I will turn it over to you to tell us everything we need to know.
Well, thank you. I brought you some visual aids, but you don't need to keep them. I know that as county commissioners, you get handouts from everybody, because a lot of us think if we don't give you handouts, then we haven't done our job. But I also know from having sat on many committees that usually what happens to handouts is at the end of the year, I put them in the burn pot. When you're done with these, if you leave them with the front desk at the recorder's office, then these are designed to actually be given out to the public.
Okay.
And what these aids really do is the green one tells you about the Zoom workshop that I do every Wednesday from 10 o'clock till noon. I used to do this workshop in person, but we found that doing it via Zoom for all 5 counties is much more efficient. That's what this one does. The other one is just my contact information and lets the public know that I also have open hours every Thursday in Kootenai County. I am the Court Assistance Officer for all 5 northern counties, and I love my job. I have a special spot in my heart for Shoshone County. I used to practice law here. In fact, I've been your deputy prosecutor and worked with the commissioners before. Then I had the honor of being your public defender for 6 years. And then I practiced law here before I became the court assistance officer. So anytime I can come back to my old stomping grounds, I love it. What I do is I help the public who are not represented by attorneys. So the first question people have, because I get a lot of phone calls from people who are really looking for a second opinion. And I tell people, if you're represented by an attorney, you have paid a professional, you need to take their advice. And it's not my job to get between you. Then the next thing that I clear up for people is that I do not give legal advice. My job is that I give legal education. And I tell people it never bothers me when you ask me any questions, because it's my job to know whether I can answer them or whether I can't. The reality is that if you understood my job well enough to know the difference between legal advice and legal education, you probably wouldn't need to talk to me, because you'd also know the answers to your questions. So it never bothers me when people come to me and they ask me a question I can't answer. If I can't answer it, I usually tell them why I can't and explain to them where they can either get help from an attorney or look it up themselves and how to do it. My job is to help those people who are in our system and really can't afford an attorney. I'm deeply committed to the prospect that our system should provide equal justice for everybody. Access to Justice is the name of the program that I'm really underneath. And I've always worried throughout my career that we do have a 2-tier justice system, and we're not supposed to. But the reality is we've never made a perfect system. And I liken it to this. If you're going on a jungle cruise and you can afford a guide, you're going to have a much better experience than if you've never been there and you're in your own kayak. I'm helping the people in their own kayak. And the difference, because I get asked this a lot, what's the difference between legal advice and legal education? Because I can provide legal education all day. If you ask me for legal advice, I cannot do that. I tell people I'm the court's attorney, I'm not your attorney, and they're jealous of my time. So what is the difference? Well, I can tell you the definition all day and it wouldn't help at all. But we lawyers, we love analogies. So let me give you the analogy. And it's right on point. If you went into a biology class and you said, teacher, how many bones are in the human hand? We'd get out the anatomy textbook and I'd tell you that. But if you went into your biology class and you said, I have broken this bone, I think, could you x-ray it? set it and give me some pain medication, I would say, no, I'm your biology teacher. You need to go to urgent care. That's exactly what I do. If you come to me and you say, how does the law work? I can help you with that. If you say, I need to file this type of case, what I'll do is see if the Idaho Supreme Court has forms for that. If they have forms for that, I can help you with those forms. I can answer any questions about those forms. I can even do what's called a form review, which means after you fill out your paperwork, I can look at it and say, oh, this is the place for your soon-to-be ex-spouse, or this is where your child's name goes. And I teach classes all about that. That's what my Zoom workshop is. What I do is the Zoom workshop covers the family law cases. So people who want to file for a divorce, divorce with kids, or any child support or child custody cases. The process is all the same. So I walk them through the process. Then at the end of the class, I assign them their homework. For instance, I'd say, okay, you need to fill out the following forms. And I'll list them and they'll write them down. And I'll say, fill out those forms. I want you to skip the child support part because I have a computer program that will help you with that math. Okay. Then when you're done, you can either come see me in person with those forms, or if it's more convenient, and I'm amazed at how many people opt for this, just scan them in and email them to me. And we all have scanners. We have amazing scanners. I'm amazed at the technology that's on this mobile device. They can just put in their free PDF app, scan the document in, email it to me, and then I'll call them up and I'll do the form review with them. So regardless of where they are, I want to give people the most timely help that I can and meet them where I can. Now, if they're not technologically savvy, I'm in Coeur d'Alene every Thursday. I am in the other jurisdictions once a month. I'd like to be here more, but the reality is there's only so much of me to go around. So in a nutshell, what I do is help people answer questions. And if we have forms, I'll give them a class on the form, teach them how to do the process, and even do a form review. Now, the other thing that happens a lot is there's a huge misunderstanding about what I do. I get a lot of people who come in my office or call me and hope that I'm going to be their attorney. And not only can I not do that, but there are some subjects that the Supreme Court says I cannot help with. And so on the back of these cards, I put services not provided by my office. That just helps people a lot because they come to me and they go, I really need you to do my dad's probate. And I'll say, unfortunately, probate is not a subject that the Idaho Supreme Court has forms or instructions for. And then I'll refer them to either the lawyer referral service or the Idaho Volunteer Lawyers Program, or if they want to do their own research and do their own pleadings, the law library, because the state has a pretty good law library online. So in a nutshell, that's what I do. And the other thing that I want to do in this meeting today is I'm a public servant, and I consider very much that I work for you. You need to have a face to that name, contact information for me, and I am here because if you think I need to be doing something else, or if you've heard from the public, I want to be responsive to that. I want to be responsive to your instructions, because considering that I work for you, if I don't touch base with you, how would I get any instructions from you?
Good point.
Yep.
I honestly didn't even know that this program existed.
Well, that's one of the reasons I do these. I call it my PR chore about every 3 to 5 years, because as public servants, we have elections. And I used to meet with the commissioners, every month when I was a deputy prosecutor. You were not the commissioners I met with. And that's a natural and good part of democracy. We're none of us enthroned for life. And I always think that getting new people and new perspectives into these offices is what keeps our democracy vibrant. But I also want you guys to know that I'm here and I work for you.
Sure appreciate it.
Yeah.
This is a great resource to refer people to when they come for questions, because now and then they call me and ask for legal advice, and I don't even have trouble playing dumb.
Well, my wife says that I'm so good at playing dumb that it's not method acting anymore.
It's not even.
I've nailed it.
You got it down.
But, and as far as these cards go, I leave a whole bunch upstairs at the court clerk's office. I actually want to leave these here at the front desk. Okay. And I've also told them that when you guys run low on them, just shoot me an email about a week before I come. And that way I'll remember to put them in my bag and bring them here. Usually on the fourth Friday of the month, and you guys get rescheduled a little more than other jurisdictions because we usually move you for Thanksgiving, which sometimes is on the fourth Friday, and we move you usually during the Christmas break. When I move you, I try and reschedule for another time. But you guys have graciously let me use this room to do the court assistance work. So I come in and I bring the printer down from upstairs and I hook my laptop up and I usually sit right there. And people come in, I leave the door open. One of the things that I don't do with people is I don't meet with them individually. I used to, but I don't like doing that because since I don't become their attorney, nothing that they tell me is privileged. I always tell them, don't worry. I see 60 people a week. I'll never remember what you told me. But on the other hand, I don't want to give them the impression that what they're telling me is confidential or that I become their attorney. And I find doing it in public really helps. The other reason I really like the classes rather than doing one-on-one work is because if we do a class, one of you is going to ask a question that actually helps everybody in the class. The other thing I found is that if I just do one-on-one, people get a little intimidated. If it's just you and me talking, you have no cover when you ask that question that you think is dumb. But if it's a class of us and you ask a question and you think that's even dumber than my question, you'll be willing to ask that question. And as I tell people, there are no dumb questions. We are not good at something we do for the first time. I see the public usually at a low point in their lives if they're doing family law cases, and also at a time when they've never done something like this. And I try and help them through it. I try and say, look, you can do this. And, what I'm there is to provide my knowledge about how the process works. Back to my analogy, I can tell you how many bones are in the hand. I can tell you that this is the 4 steps you need to do to get a court order. And if you're having trouble serving that other person, we can go to service by publication. There is a way through this phase.
Interesting. Do other states have programs like this?
Some do, but we've been told nationally that Idaho has the best court assistance program. Now, when you just look at content of what they do and their materials, I think California is actually better than we are. But the problem is California is not very responsive, okay? Because they're just holding back the floodgates. Now, one person for 5 counties, I think we are understaffed, okay? If you asked me and you said, Jay, design a program for the 1st Judicial District, I'd probably have 4 court assistance officers in Kootenai, 2 in Bonner, and 1 full-time in all the other jurisdictions. By the way, I'd be your full-time one. I'd be paid more and work less. Oh, sorry. Did I use my outside voice? Sorry. No, I would provide great service. But, reality, when you do government work should just meet the need and no more. Okay. If we have civil servants that are just sitting around doing nothing, we're wasting taxpayer funds. I think I'm one of your best taxpayer dollars. On the other hand, I think we are stretched to the limit, but that's by design. I think we've got the best court assistance office in Idaho. And I think Idaho has the best court assistance program in the nation. I look at my compatriots, we get together and talk. And a lot of their legal systems are very different than ours in how they do things. It surprises me, the diversity state to state. But, you know, if you're going to ask about audio visual or online training, I'd say, California just slays us with that stuff. But if you ask about actual service provided, we're head and shoulders above everybody.
That's good to know.
So
Well, I sure appreciate you taking the time to come in.
that's no problem. I wanted to also say that my door is always open. The best way to get a hold of me is actually by email. The reason being is the way my schedule works is I'm almost always helping someone. You'll notice that it says I have a message phone. And that's because the reality is I tend to roll from meeting to meeting, and then in between them, I'm phone call to phone call. So I never have the opportunity to answer my phone. I tell people the best thing to do is to email me. If I can answer your question in email, I will. If I can't, I will schedule a phone call for you so you won't miss me. But
Okay.
my program, my door is always open. The other thing is, should you ever be interested and want to just attend as an observer one of my Wednesday Zoom workshops, I'd be happy to include you. I want maximum transparency. I think that there's some things that are required from a public servant. Number one, integrity. But part of integrity is accountability. And I want to be accountable to you guys.
We can appreciate
Yep.
that.
Yep.
We're kind of big on transparency and accountability ourselves. So
And so if at any point, you know, probably that workshop is one of the best ways to observe it. I know you're busy, but I wanted to make the invitation at any point you would like that. I also make that invitation to all of the court staff. The other thing I'm huge on is cross-training. I think the more that we understand what the other worker next to us does, we can serve the public even better.
if you don't mind, I'd like to open it to the public to ask questions.
Absolutely.
Public questions? Steve, you walked in late. Any questions? You brought donuts. Apparently you thought this was a law enforcement meeting. You brought donuts.
I had worked in law enforcement. Oh, I appreciate that.
Okay.
Actually, could I have one of each of your cards?
Absolutely.
Family member who may be
And
interested in contacting you.
we keep these cards upstairs. When the commissioners are done with these aids, I'm going to leave them on the recorder's office too. Right there out front. Also, I'm just going to leave them with the commissioners, and you guys can have them as much as you want. But when you're done with them, just leave them out front, and I'll bring more. I love these aids. They give really everything you need to know, and they tell you what I can't do. So maybe I love them because I designed them.
Yeah, it could be.
And you're Mr. Sturgill?
I am. You can call me Jay.
Steve.
Steve, nice to meet you.
All right. Well, thank you for
Thank
your
you very
time.
much. Yeah.
My pleasure. It was so nice to meet you.
Yeah.
If I'm excused,
We're going to adjourn this meeting,
Yes.
so we'll let you on to your next meeting.
I will go and cause more trouble.
There you
elsewhere.
go.
Good
It's
to
what
see
I'm
you.
good at.
And I've met you before. You're